We will have up to the 7:30 inshallah, and after that we will have the dinner. You're 6:30 right now? But no,
much less than that.
No. Sure. Yes, there will be some questions and answers.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. Well, Brother Muhammad Ismail, Jazakallah khair for the invitation. May Allah reward you for gathering us tonight over here to enjoy being with each other, talking to each other, sharing advices with each other, and especially having the youth, the children over here as well, to learn from the adults. The few things I would like to share are pertaining to the subject that you mentioned, and actually to almost every subject in our life. And that is, how can we empower ourselves every day so we stay course in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Things do happen in the past, things are happening now, and things will happen in the future. But while those things are happening, what is really my attitude towards them? And today in the masjid, between 1 and 2, we had a dars in the seerah, in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as usually we do every Sunday. And I will tell you some of the lessons that we learned from there, which are pertaining exactly to what's going on now. The recitation that we have heard from Sheikh Yasin a while ago is from which surah? Anybody remembers which surah? No? Surah Al-Ahzab. And Surah Al-Ahzab, all of it is about Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. All of it, from the beginning until the end, is about Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And many, many other parts in the Quran are about Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to illustrate for us the example, the model. And in this surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us about Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. Indeed, you have in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam a model to follow. So if we really study that model, if we really follow that model, then there is no doubt there will be a safe end to our life. There will be no doubt. Now, what did we learn today, for example, in the dars of the seerah? We are all talking about identity. We are all talking about challenges. We are all talking about what's the future for the Muslim Ummah. So if you would like to see the future of the Muslim Ummah, see how that Muslim Ummah started. Imam Malik, rahimahullah wa radiyallahu anhu, says what means that the end of this Ummah will not be successful except with the same way the beginning of the Ummah was. If we really start and have the ingredients of success that the beginning of the Ummah had, then we will be able to have the same success they had. لن يصلح آخر هذه الأمة إلا بما صلح به أولها. That's the rule. لن يصلح آخر هذه الأمة إلا بما صلح به أولها. The end of this Ummah will not be reconciled or corrected or righteous except with the same way the beginning of it was. That's the rule. So let's find out that beginning of the Ummah, what kind of ingredients they had that gave them all that kind of success. That success which was phenomenal. I mean, by all means, it was a miracle by itself. And we are not talking about power. We are not talking about conquering of the land. No, we are talking about conquering hearts. Rasulullah ﷺ, as some of the non-Muslims said, we are not amazed to how much power he had or how much land he had, but how he was able to conquer the hearts of his own enemies, people who fought him for many years, and they ended up under his feet. And he forgave them. He told them, اذهبوا فأنتم الطلقاء. That's Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. So that's the example we want to study. So then all these kind of challenges around us, we will be able to deal with them. So few points that we learned today in that seerah. And the period we were talking about the beginning of the hijrah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the beginning of the establishment of the Muslim community in Medina. That's the exact period we were talking about. So few lessons. Lesson number one that we learned is that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, as a messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah promised him that he will be protected. So he gave him the assurance that no harm will touch him and he will be okay. But that did not stop him from planning accordingly as a human being. So he took all the means to plan his journey, his trip. From hiding in the cave, from asking Ali radiallahu anhu to spend the night in his bed, from asking Abu Bakr to be his companion, from hiring a ride, from hiring a guide who took them through different route rather than the regular route, from taking the provision, from doing all the necessary means to succeed in his journey. Yet, as a messenger of Allah, Allah promised him that no harm will touch him. But still, with all that planning, the enemies were able to come very close to get him. But the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was there. So what do we learn from this? We learn that we have to do what we have to do and rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. اعقلها وتوكل. The hadith of Rasulullah teaches us, اعقلها وتوكل. Tie the camel and rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's both. And actually tying the camel doesn't mean it's not going to go away. It may go away. But at least you did your part, because that's all what you are asked to do as a human being. But rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah will take care of it. So that's the point. And that's the confusion that many of us Muslims today, we are in. Some of us, we don't tie the camel, and some of us, we don't rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And some of us, we don't do both. You see, we have to do both. We have to rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we have to tie the camel. Now, that's one. That's one lesson. What's the second lesson? The second lesson that we talked about today is the sacrifice. Nothing comes cheap. Islam is so expensive. Islam is so beautiful. Islam is so important. It will not come cheap. Anything that comes cheap, it will go easy. Anything you don't work hard for it, when it goes away, you don't miss it. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us this way of life. You have to work for it. You have to struggle. You have to sacrifice. We have to teach our children that this is the way. We have to be ready to sacrifice. Sacrificing time, sacrificing money, sacrificing luxury, sacrificing from our wants. I mean, we are spoiled in this country. And our children are going to be even worse than us. And their children probably is going to be worse than that. People are spoiled in this country. Everything we want, we have. And not only we have it instantly. People are learning to get things instantly. They have no time to wait. Because everything around us is teaching us that. Well, but real life is not like that. Real life is not like that. Real life, everything takes time, everything takes work, everything takes sacrifice. But unfortunately, we are not training our children that this way of this spoiling culture is not going to be good for them. We have to learn that there is something called sacrifice. And those early companions, when they sacrificed their level with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and what they contributed to the well-being not only of their community but for the rest of the ummah, is something that we remember until today. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned them in the Quran, and He mentioned al-Muhajirin first, then al-Ansar, then the rest of the believers. Why? Because al-Muhajirin, they were the first ones who gave the sacrifice. If it were not for their sacrifice, there will be nothing after that. And in Ghazwat Badr, when Rasulullah was raising his hands and making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said, Allahumma in tahlik hadhihi al-isaba lan tu'bada fil ardi ba'da al-yawm. Ya Allah, if you are going to let this group to be destroyed, you will not be worshipped on earth. That's the group. Most of them, they were al-Muhajirin and some of the Ansar. So then we know the importance of sacrifice. Sacrifice. When you wake up for Fajr in the morning, that's a sacrifice. You wake up in the morning when it's minus 25 or 30, that is a sacrifice that some people can't do or don't want to do. When some people have to go to the masjid to perform salah, that's sacrifice. You go in the masjid once or twice a day, all right? You take some time out from your time, from your TV, from the time from your children, and you go for those 10, 15 minutes. That's a sacrifice, but it's worth it. So sacrifice is very important. So during this journey of hijrah, those muhajirin, they made big sacrifice. One example that we talked about today as a sacrifice is the example of Abdul Rahman ibn Auf. So Abdul Rahman ibn Auf is, who is he when we remember the companions? He is one of al-ashara al-mubashara, right? He is one of the al-ashara, the 10 people who were given the glad tiding by Rasulullah ﷺ that they will be going to Jannah. So he migrated, and Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, he was well respected in his community. He was rich, but he left everything behind in Mecca. And when he went to Medina, he had nothing with him. Nothing, zero. And he started from zero. So now look to the sacrifice and look how his attitude. That's why we are learning about attitude, how to deal with challenges. Those people, they were immigrants. They left everything behind. They are starting all over. And they are going to an area which is foreign to them, to people that they don't know. But yet, they had positive attitude. They were ready to sacrifice and ready to take the challenge. And look how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala supported them. So when he arrived, Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, right, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did something very beautiful to establish the community of Medina. He did 2 or 3 things. 3 things. Number 1, he did build the masjid. So the masjid is the center in which Muslims gather. Muslims should be gathering in the masjid, because the masjid has barakah. The masjid is the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is there any house better than the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? No way. The masjid is the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We should be gathering in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as regularly as we can. That's where the learning takes place. That's where the planning takes place. That's where finding out how people are doing, and we should be able to help them. That's where we teach the children. That's where we solve our problems. That's where we get the counseling. Masjid is everything. So the first thing they did is building the masjid. After that is establishing brotherhood between al-Muhajirin wal-Ansar. The third one is what? Did what is called Mithaqul Medina, the constitution of Al-Medina, where all the groups, Muslims and non-Muslims, our concern is we have to have this kind of of pledge or commitment, how we are going to govern ourselves in Medina, how we are supposed to protect Al-Medina, and that concerns everyone who lives over here. So you see, establishing a community. Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam was guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do all these things. So now Abdurrahman bin Auf, out of that brotherhood between Al-Muhajirin wal-Ansar, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam gave him a brother from Al-Ansar. He said, your brother is so and so. And that brother took it so seriously. He told him, you know what? Everything that I have, I am ready to divide into two halves. You take one half, I take another half. The people of Al-Medina, Al-Ansar, actually, when they received their brothers and sisters, Al-Muhajirin, they said, look, whatever we have, we'll give you half and we take half. But what was the attitude of Al-Muhajirin? See, the attitude of Al-Muhajirin, they were the kind of people who, they don't lower themselves. They are not beggars. No, they are people who have dignity. They appreciated what their brothers of Medina are doing for them. They appreciated the fact that they are willing to support them. But they want to be independent. They don't want to be a burden on anyone. So they said, no, we are not going to divide your land or your palm trees or your dates. Therefore they said, the people of Medina, how about that you do the work and it's our land and our palm trees and we divide the fruits. Said, that's fair. That's fair. We are ready to work. And they start working. And besides that, you know, we have the story of Umar ibn al-Khattab, where the one who was his brother from Al-Ansar, actually they went even further than that. Both of them were working, not just Umar. And as they were working, they said, one day you work, the other day I work. But the day when you are not working, you stay with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and you learn from him. And at the end of the day, you tell me what you learned. The next day, I will do exactly the same. Look, they were people who were disciplined. They were people who were motivated. They were people who were wanting to change themselves. Now, let's go back to Abdurrahman ibn Auf. So Abdurrahman ibn Auf, his brother came to him and he said, we will give you this. I will give you that. He said, no. Thank you very much, my dear brother. May Allah bless your family. May Allah bless your wealth. But just show me the market.
Show the market.
Show me the market. He said, I know how to deal with the market. Because the people of Medina are different from the people of Mecca when it comes to business. The people of Medina are by nature farmers. They are people who do farming. They have palm trees, they raise sheep and camels. Most of them, that's what they do. Some of them are traders. But the people of Mecca, most of them are traders. They know how to do business. That's why when they came to Medina, actually the whole setting of Medina changed. Because who were in control of the market of Medina? Who? Our cousins, the Jews.
Yeah.
Right? There were many tribes, Bani Qurayza, Bani Qaynuqa, and others. They were in charge of the market of Medina. Right? They were in charge of the economy. They were in charge of the flow of money. And they were charging a lot of riba, a lot of interest. And the rest of the people were borrowing money from them. And many times those Arabs were fighting with each other, and they are the ones who would supply, you know, money or weapons and things like that. But when those migrant muhajirin came from Mecca, things changed because they know how to make money and they know how to trade. So then the dynamics of the market changed. So the Abdurrahman ibn Auf went in the morning to the market and he borrowed some money and he started trading. By the end of the day, he came back with a piece of gold. He said, Ya Rasulullah, I was able to have this. And his clothing, his dress was a little changed. One day he came to him and he was dressed up and he said, Abdurrahman, what's going on? He said, I got married. He said, huh? MashaAllah, you got married. He said, what did you offer as a dowry? He said, a piece of gold. So this is the attitude. The attitude is someone who really independent. He wants to work He wants to make money, halal money, and he wants to contribute. And we know that Abdurrahman bin Auf was one of the big contributors to the community. And he was one of the contributors to the da'wah and to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he took care of the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam after his death until he himself died. He was always taking care of them, offering them whatever they want. Abdurrahman bin Auf was very rich. He became one of the richest of the people of Medina. You see, the point is the attitude of those believers, a reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and making use of the asbab. Right? So that's one lesson that we learned today of how the Muslim community flourished in Medina. And then, of course, there were so many obstacles, inside and outside, but they were able to deal with them under the guidance of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. While the Quran is guiding them, they were having revelation all the time, telling them what to do. We know the difference between the Quran in Mecca and the Quran in Medina. Most of the Quran in Mecca is about Tawheed, is about Aqidah, while the Quran in Medina was teaching the believers how to organize their society. So, in answering the question that was raised by Brother Muhammad Ismail is about the challenges, what Muslims are going through today. In a way, there is no difference. Muslims went through those kind of difficulties then, and they are going through those difficulties today. But the difference is what kind of people we are. Are we like those kind of people? Do we have their iman? Do we have their ilm? Do we have their taqwa? Do we have their determination? Or we don't? I think that's what we have to work on. That's what we have to teach ourselves. That's what we have to learn. So in conclusion, what I would like to say, alhamdulillah, we would like our children to succeed. We would like our brothers who are doing business to do good business. We would like those who are having other kind of jobs, whether doctors, lawyers, businessmen and businesswomen, whatever they are doing. Alhamdulillah, we would like you to succeed. But just remember, in everything that you do, whether you are a student or you are a professional, make sure you do it as a Muslim. You know those verses that you read from Iqbal, right? That is the model. The model is if someone does what he does properly as a good Muslim, all the people around you will be able to see that. And they will witness. Even if they don't become Muslims, they will be in their hearts admitting this is a good way. And that's the way it should be. That's the way it should be. Our da'wah is not speeches. It's not by making speeches. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you know, he made few speeches, but his behavior was the Quran. As Aisha radiallahu anha said, كَانَ خُلُقُهُ الْقُرْآنِ. If you see Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam walking, it's like the Quran is walking. The way he walks, the way he talks, the way he behaves, the way he deals with people, everything. After all, when he was leaving from Mecca, going to Medina, he left Ali radiallahu anhu behind, so he will give back the trusts that people gave him. This is a man who was being hunted by them. They were going after him to kill him. And the same people who were going to kill him, he left Ali behind so he can give them back their trusts. Subhanallah. This is what attracts people to Islam. It's this behavior. إنما الأمم الأخلاق ما بقيت فإنهم ذهبت أخلاقهم ذهبوا. One poet said, nations are but their characters. If their characters, their good characters are gone, those nations will be gone. And study the history and you will find this to be true. And our community is no different. If we are going to leave anything behind or teach the rest of the people, you know, we are not going to teach them anything they don't know, technology or anything like that. We are just like everybody else. But if we would like to be contributing anything different that maybe many other people can't, it's character. It is character. if we really bring up our children, our daughters, our sons, every one of us, and become a community of character, then that will be a big contribution. And that will contribute to our identity, to our future history, and inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us success, will give us support, because this deen is about character. لكل دين خلق وخلق الإسلام الحياة. As the hadith of Rasulullah said, every religion has a character that identifies it. And the character that identifies al-Islam is haya. And haya is not only bashfulness, is not only to be shy, it's much more than that. Right? It's a very comprehensive word that means fear from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that means to be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that means to be aware of what you are doing it, how you are doing it, why you are doing it. All that is part of haya. So I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us the understanding of this deen, the ability to stick to this deen and to practice it. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the strength of iman. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to help one another, understand one another, and to be able to do the sacrifices that are needed, to be patient with each other, and to contribute to the well-being of the ummah. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم إنه هو الغفور الرحيم ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.
Thank you very much. Alhamdulillah. Every day, whenever I listen to you, I have many other questions, So I will have some day related to this topic. But at this time, if you allow me, it may be different topics. If anybody else has any question about this present topic, first I'll give the chance. You have some.
Just to say last word in haya, and we are seeing this 14th February, Valentine's Day, and especially everybody like spirit by Muslim country, boyfriend, girlfriend, Muslims too. They are all this book and everything. What you talking about? What do you think about Valentine's Day?
No. This is a good point actually, that you are raising, which is how much the culture influences people who their deen teaches them something exactly the opposite. And one thing that number one, we have to be aware, so we don't get absorbed in this culture, because this culture is very strong. But if we have iman, our iman will be stronger, and we will be taking from the culture the good things, because there are so many good things in this culture. There are people who work hard. That's good. There are people who are punctual. We have to learn how to be punctual. We Muslims, that's one of the things we have to struggle with. We are not punctual. Many of us, we don't work hard. Many of us, we lack discipline. There is discipline in this culture. There is punctuality. People are working hard. There are many other things that we have to learn. But when you have a strong culture yourself, then you can borrow from the other cultures and it doesn't harm you. But when you have something weak in your culture, a weak iman, a weak culture, then you don't take only the positive things, you take everything. That's where Valentine's stuff comes in. And one way that we have to teach our children how to deal with this matter is from the beginning, at early age, at young age, we teach them that they have to be aware that Allah is with them all the time. If there is someone that you have to have haya from, have haya from Allah. Because Allah is with you wherever you are. Wherever you are. And this kind of behavior is not our behavior. This is not the way we deal with these kind of things. We have our own way of expressing love. Right? We have our own way of expressing love. Not in this manner. Because we know the history of this, of Valentine. We know where it came from. We know why. We know why it is spread this way. Because we are living in a time where there are no boundaries. We have to teach our children that there are boundaries. And those boundaries are for our own good. And that becomes the role of the family, the role of the masjid, the role of the community like this, that we have to teach. Those older children should be role models for the younger ones, not the ones who introduce them to drugs, as many people are doing. You know, Muslim community, years ago we used to think that this is an issue that is the issue of the others. No, it's becoming our issue as well. You know, it's becoming our issue as well. So we should really be aware and careful that we have to be alert, we have to be watchful, and we have to start doing something before things go too far. That's why this matter of Valentine, as well as other matters, are very important, and we have to be careful. We have to teach our children what are the other alternatives, the halal alternatives. So then hopefully they will learn positive things rather than destructive and negative things. Jazakallah khair.
Unfortunately, I mean, if you see the images from Pakistan for the day of 14th of February, it's totally different than what you are seeing over here. It's not celebrated that way as Pakistan is celebrating. As if they are looking at it as if there is Eid. I mean, you will see all kind of balloons, all kind of decorations over there going on. And that really surprised me, that what happened all of a sudden, why they are going out of their way so much. And is there any inhibition is gone totally? There is no Islam, there is no teacher over there. Now I heard that there are certain things that they are putting the restrictions. In Islamabad, they restricted that there will not be anything related to the Valentine.
Still there.
Yeah. Any other question now? Anybody else has any question related to that? We have some time. I would like to spend this quality of time very well. If not, then I would like to ask you, I mean, about the graveyard, Muslim graveyard. How much we can do to protect the graves, to have something related to graves, to make it anything that we can build around, to have those khutbah about the name, what is the, how much we are allowed in Islam to have that. I mean, many people, they make a tomb on the grave. Whether that, I know that's not allowed, but what is the limit, where we stop?
Well, before I tell you how the grave should be, according to the Sunnah of Rasulullah and so on, let's talk about the graveyard in general. The Muslim graveyard is very important because it is a piece of identity. You know, we are not living in Algeria or Pakistan. We are living in the United States of America. And we would like generations from now, our children or grandchildren, to say that our parents were part of this society. They were here. And one of the proofs that they were here, graveyards. So I know there are some people who may think it's okay to bury your dead in other cemeteries. It's okay to be part of another cemetery. To tell you the truth, I'm not so sure that's the right way. I would like Muslims to have their own places, their own masjid, their own school if possible, their own graveyard. And graveyards are one of those places that identify Muslims, that the Muslim community does exist, and the Muslim community was here for a long time. Go and look for where the Muslims who were here 200 years ago, where are they? Where are their graveyards? Well, they did not have their own graveyards. That's why we cannot identify when those Muslims came, how many of them, where were they living. So it's part of our history. And it's important that we have our own Muslim graveyard. Number one. Number two, we have to take care of it. Unfortunately, many times, Muslims come, bury their beloved ones over there, and then they don't come. For 10 years, 15 years, they don't come and they don't even ask. Well, actually, that's not the Sunnah. Rasulullah ﷺ used to go and visit the companions who were buried in Al-Baqi' on a regular basis. And he said in his hadith, كنت قد نهيتكم عن زيارة القبور ألا فزوروها. In the beginning he told them, don't visit graves. After that he said, now you may go and visit them. There must be a reason. Because in the beginning he wanted them to disassociate their actions that they used to do in Jahiliyyah as shirk, to disassociate that. Once Islam became very clear to them and it started becoming part of their daily life, and that's no question about it, then he told them, you may go and visit the graves now. Because now you go and visit them in the Muslim way. You go and visit and you make dua for them and so on and so on. And we have a tradition of how that should be, right? In the Muslim way, right? Then we have to take care of our cemetery. We know sometimes we hear complaints about people that the cemetery is not being taken care of. And I think we should take care of our cemetery. Should organize it, should be well disciplined. We should not be wasting land. We should not be having bushes and all these kind of things like that. You know, why? I mean, just being a Muslim cemetery, then, you know, it's not garbage. It's a cemetery as a respect to the people who are buried over there. And unfortunately, I think we are not doing a good job. We have to do a better job. Number 3 or 4 is that how the grave should be. The grave, according to the Sunnah of Rasulullah, should be built this much. If you are going to build the grave, it's this much, right? Around this much. And the reason is because you don't want the grave after some time to disappear. You want the grave to be able to be known. So you come after some time, you can identify it. And you are allowed to do a shahid, what we call a shahid, that piece of a stone that you can put it on it, and you may write the name of the person. If you have to write the year of when he died, or the year when he was born, that's fine. That's not a problem. But you may write the name of the person, but without decoration. You don't write the name of the person with decorations and titles and this and that as if it's celebration. No, it's not celebration. It's just to serve the purpose. And the purpose of that shahid is so the person who is being buried over there is identified. That's the whole purpose. So this is, as far as I know, wallahu alam, some people may disagree with me, but as far as I know, this is the sunnah. Is when you build the grave, it should be around this much, and it should be buried with natural things as much as you can. Natural things, even the stones, whatever you use over there, it should be something natural to the best of your ability. Then that shahid. Now, why some people came over there and actually built something as a monument? I think that's because of the absence of the organizers. Because we didn't have a good discipline in maintaining our own cemetery. Otherwise, no one should be allowed to make anything without permission from those who are in charge. But because those people felt that there is a vacuum, so they end up doing whatever they want to do. Now you go, you find one grave is almost flat, another grave is this big, another grave has almost a big monument on it, and that is not right, unfortunately. That is not right. So, I think looking forward, to the future is, we can manage that graveyard, in a way that it can be maintained, inshallah, in the best possible way. But then looking for the future, there has to be a very well disciplined way of how the graveyard should be, to represent the kind of Muslim community we are. Wallahu alam.
Thank you very much. Yes, do you have something?
Yeah, just asking a question about the ayah from Quran. Yes, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. وَمَنْ يُبَدِّلْ نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا جَاءَتْهُ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ شَدِيدُ الْعِقَابِ. How does it apply to the modern time? What is the meaning of this ayah?
ما شاء الله. عندك تعليق على هذه الآية؟ إن الله شديد العقاب. لكن هي عامة. نعم. العبرة بعموم اللفظ وليس بخصوص السبب. نعم. There is a rule that generally is applied in fiqh, which is called العبرة بعموم اللفظ وليس بخصوص السبب. That the Sheikh Yassin is telling me that the سبب نزول هذه الآية, the reason for this ayah to be revealed is for some people who were having the ni'mah of belief, and then they went back and became munafiq or mushrik again.
Okay.
Right. So this is a ni'mah of iman, and then someone rejected that ni'mah and went back. That's one level.
Yeah.
But actually the rule over here is telling us العبرة بعموم اللفظ وليس بخصوص السبب. When we look to the wordings of the ayah, it's talking about any ni'mah, any blessing. So whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a blessing and then we misuse it, that's yubaddil. We misuse it instead of using it for whatever Allah intend that ni'mah to be for, we use it for something that is completely the opposite. Allah gave me the ni'mah of sight, to see something good, to be able to read, to learn, to teach, to help others, and then I use this sight to see that which is haram for me to see.
Yes.
Same thing with the ears, same thing with my heart, same thing with my mind, same thing with my abilities, same thing with my wealth. If I use my wealth, my abilities, my means in that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not make them for that, then actually I'm disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what happens as a consequence? Allah will take that ni'mah away.
Oh, okay.
And that's part of the adhab. فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ شَدِيدُ الْعَذَابِ. This is the adhab of dunya, and there is another adhab in akhirah. So, you know, and there are so many other texts, actually, some of them are ahadith, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent through His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that if you don't use whatever Allah gave you in that which is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will take it away and give it to someone, to some other people. And actually we can see this even at a nation level. There are nations before us in the history, then after they reached to a level of disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah destroyed them. And He gave the khilafah, He gave the leadership to some other nations to see what they are going to do.
Right.
So that could happen to us, individually as well as collectively. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. No. But that's beautiful point.
Yeah, I read one tafsir that talks about tattoos and all this stuff that we have because we are changing our bodies and doing all this. So this is one other meaning that may apply to us.
What really applies to this example that you gave is more تغيير. تغيير الآية اللي في سورة النساء ومن يغير.
التغيير that they will the tattoos and they will change the
No, what Iblis said, said, وَلَآمُرَنَّهُمْ فَلَيُغَيِّرُنَّ خَلْقَ اللَّهِ. نعم.
هي هذه الآية اللي ذكرهم من يبدل نعمة جاءت في سياق قوله تعالى سل بني إسرائيل كم آتيناهم من آية بينة ومن يبدل نعمة الله من بعد ما جاءته فإن الله شديد العقاب. المفسرين يقولون من يبدل هنا تحتمل معنيين وكلاهما صحيح. المعنى الأول هو الردة، أنهم ربي أتاهم الإسلام بني إسرائيل وبدلوا كفروا. المعنى الثاني أنهم حرفوا ما أتاهم الله، يعني ربي أتاهم التوراة أو أتاهم الإنجيل وحرفوا. فسل بني إسرائيل كم آتيناهم من آية بينة، يعني من كتاب محكم من شريعة من كذا، فبدلوها وحرفوها. فربي هددهم ومن يبدل نعمة الله من بعد ما جاءته فإن الله شديد العقاب. فأصل نزولها في بني إسرائيل لكن تعم. نعم.
And he said that when you look to the ayah before it, it's about Bani Israel. It's about Bani Israel. But as we said, the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was speaking to Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam and speaking to the Muslims, so it's not about history. It's about watch out. If you are going to do like them, what will happen to you is exactly what happened to them. And that's the fact. That's why the fact that actually the Bani Israel, their story is mentioned a lot in the Quran. It's not for the sake of history. It's for the sake so we can take lesson. So we don't end up like that. That's the reason. But talking about tattoos and all those kind of things, the other ayah in Surah An-Nisa where Shaitan vowed. And he said, I will make them change the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And changing the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is tattoos and other things, and you find the books in the fiqh, they are talking about, what do you call this? Eyebrows and all that kind of, but actually there is much worse than that. We are talking now at the level of what? Genes.
Cloning.
We are talking about cloning and the level of genes, where we are making certain changes that are going to affect probably the entire humanity, I don't know for how long. And that is probably what is even more towards what this ayah is talking about. Changing, because the aim is to really changing the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, they claim that the aim is to make positive changes, is to cure certain things. Allahu alam how much of that is done, but the danger is always there. How much do we really know? So we give ourselves the power to make changes at that level. That's a big question.
Yeah, this ayah actually applied to my life. Like, that we have cats and we had kittens every few months and we were tired of them. So I did not fix them for a long time, thinking that ayah applies to it. And finally we got tired and I fixed it. I said, maybe I did something bad. I changed the name off of them.
Thank you very much. Any other question? If not, then I have one. And this is totally different.
You always have different questions, by the way.
This is very basic, but we don't take care of the basic. It's easy, and it's very common. It's about the will.
The will.
The will. I mean, I know we are supposed to have the will, and we should not sleep without the will, or not even a night. I just give the one incident which happened over here in this country. One Muslim brother got married to American. He got very sick at one point. At that time he realized, initially when he got married, he turned to Christianity. He used to go to the church. When he became very sick, at that time he realized that he made a mistake. He called his friends